This water heater is 5 years old. The water here is a little bit acidic, and that can eat away at the anode rod. I'll show you how to change that, protect the water heater, and keep it going for maybe another 5 years or more. Water heaters have gotten very expensive. By changing the anode rod, we can hopefully make it last a long time. First thing you want to do, turn it off. Next, we want to turn off the cold water supply. This one we happen to have a shut off on the hot side as well. But once we do that, we want to make sure we open up the drain, get the hose running into a drain or sump somewhere, a little bit of water out of there. You don't need to drain the tank when you're doing this because the anode rod goes in from the top, but you just want to get some of the pressure out of it, or all of the pressure out of it, and maybe drain a couple inches out. That should be good enough. Each model water heater is a little different. This one, the anode rod, happens to be part of the outlet. There's other types that have a plastic plug where you pull that plug up and you'll find a large hex nut under there, and the rod just comes right out of that. That's a little bit easier because this one you have to interrupt the water line. Fortunately, we have a union here, so that makes this installation easy to deal with. We'll just put a towel there to catch any drips. Get our wrenches on the union. Now we're going to take this piece of pipe off of the connector. And here I notice the connector is actually turning, which is fine. That's what we have to take out. Open the drain line back up just to make sure any pressurized water from the heat in there is just going to drain out of the tank instead of coming out the top. Our piping's a little bit tight here. That's out. Wow. Look at that. You can see our anode rod at the top is fully depleted. We can bend this to get it out of the way. As we go down, there's some chunks of it taken away. So here we can see at the top, we got the new one on the right, the old one on the left. You can see how much of that metal was eaten away. You go right down the whole thing. Definitely due to be changed at this point. I mean, there's certainly a lot of material left here. I think in this tank it's magnesium. As long as it's still there, it's still protecting the tank. It gets eaten away before the steel of the tank. So now we just have to take that pipe off the top, put this piece in the tank. It looks like it's already got some thread seal on there, so we can just use a pipe wrench to tighten that in. And actually, once we attach this pipe on top, we'll tighten both of those together. Luckily we have a high enough ceiling here, there's enough headroom to fit this in place. Almost feels like I'm hitting something at the bottom. And when it goes to the side, it goes deeper. That looks crooked, and I don't want to cross thread it. It's interesting that the new rod looks like it's a good 3 inches longer than the old one. I'm assuming the old one ended just below the steel rod that is in the center. The rod is right there. So I may just cut a little off of this, and that way we know it's going to fit. It's not going to hurt anything. There's certainly plenty of material there. So with the tape right at the top of the threads there, we're right at 4 feet. So we'll have to make a notation that next time we change this, we got to make sure the rod is no longer than 4 feet. Yeah, now it definitely fits in there a little better. Big thing is you want to make sure you're not cross-threading. I can just about turn in by hand. Seems like it's going in just fine. I'll get this kind of snugged up. Alright, where did I put the thread paste? So not only is it a good idea to make sure you have all your tools ready, but it's a good idea to put them right where you won't lose them. Found it. It was on the floor. So if it's been sitting a while, just got to stir up, make sure it's mixed well. Oops. Alright, so I just lifted the pipe and put it on there. That'll hold it straight. Alright, I just saw my bottom fitting starting to move, so I'm going to snug up both of them a little bit more. And that should be fine. Tighten up our union. And that's it. We turn on our water. Now there's some air in there that we want to get out. I normally like to release air out of the T&P valve, but I just had this fail on me. It is new, it should be fine. But instead we can just go open a hot water faucet and let the water run through, get the air out that way. While that's going, I was seeing a little bit of a drip from my union here. I just open it and reset it a little. You don't want to crank down too tight on these. It's thin brass. I have broken them. Now we got a good flow coming out. So we should be full on the tank. Turn that off. And we are still dripping a little bit there. That thing just doesn't want to stop, and I'm afraid to over tighten this. That do it. That slowed it down. All right, maybe just one more little touch. No, it's still going a little bit. All right, I think that nailed it. Turn our power switch back on. What's interesting is when I bought this, there were two part numbers listed, and this was the replacement part number. The description on the website said both products are identical other than the number, but I'm wondering if that's the case now, because this was listed at 51 inches. I cut 3 inches off to get it down to 48. It'll be fine, but it was just strange that it was a different length. Anyway, that wraps it up. Pretty easy job to do, and hopefully this keeps this thing going for many more years to come.